Morning, everyone. Good to see you all. Day 16. Um, awesome. So I'm excited for today. We're going to transition from the ah phonetic sound of the om to the u phonetic sound of the om, or the phonetic syllable. In Sanskrit, these are called Bija mantra. Bija is seed, and so these are sort of like the seed sounds that construct the more complicated sound of the om, but construct the language of Sanskrit. And so Sanskrit is a very, very particular language because the yogic or ancient Indian mind was a very particular and detail-oriented mind. But these are called Bija mantra, or seed sounds, components. And so what we're going to do today, if you're not aware, I don't think I've explained it yet, but I think it'll mean something now. Each of these seed sounds, these bija mantra, a, u, and that create the om, represent the great trilogy or the triad of life as a regenerating creative force. And so the a represents the force of creation or beginnings, as we explored. The u represents the force of preservation or maintenance, and we're going to get into detailing that a little bit more. And then the represents the force of destruction. And so these three forces combine to create the great sort of divinity or God itself. And so a, u, and are very much like bija mantras, aspects of an almost incomprehensible experience or power. And the goal of yoga is to somehow activate our bodies and expand our minds so that we can pull ourselves into an ability to comprehend that, body and mind. And so let's go back to the first sort of mantra or shloka that we discussed at the very beginning of this lesson. And so the shloka is called the Tadesa Sloka. And it started like this. Shatam cha ikacha hridayasya nadyas. There are 101 energy channels in the chest. And so the second portion of that shloka is Tasa murdanam abhinishrita ika. Of these 101 channels, one of them ascends to the skull cap. And so the value of dissecting and interpreting these shloka, or these ancient sort of discussions, is that we find when we interpret them correctly that they are as figurative as they are literal. And when we can sort of appreciate these shloka, or these concepts, as both deeply figurative and mystical and artistic, as well as literal and physiological, it gives us a capacity to understand that our practice is the same, and that from that we can springboard and understand that life is the same. Life is as much our mentality, our concepts of what life is, as it is the world. And so what I'd like you to do now is listen to me for a second, and I'm just going to transfer from the a to the u and provide you an example of our practice today. And then you'll do the same for a couple moments to feel what this shloka actually represents in a literal sense. And so here we go, tall spine, the opened mouth a, the opened mouth bija mantra, to the more closed mouth u, bija mantra. One more time here. And so do this on your own. Nice tall spine, open mouth ah to a closed mouth oo, and just feel what happens to the chest and the experience of vibration in the body that you should be fairly familiar with. Just a couple times, and then I'll chime back in to continue the discussion. And so what you should feel is that the vibration, which sort of predominates in the chest, rises up into the throat and head. There is a migration of the physical experience of your Om. And so this migration from A to U really sort of exemplifies the idea that life is a journey. And so from birth to life to death. And so again, the figurative component of the technique matches a literal experience. And as we practice, what you really want to do to get your mind in this sort of open, expansive state, which has a lot to do with your nervous system, is just feel that migration of vibratory experience rise from point A to point B and eventually to point C. And so now let's talk about the philosophy of what's going on from A to U, from creation to preservation. That experience of preservation is what you experience now. It's what we all experience now. It's that sense that life just continues. And so within that, there is this idea of maintenance, but there's also this idea of survival. And from survival, evolution or growth. And so yogis divide the world, divide this process of evolution into sort of an ordinary experience, the experience of animals. So beneath Bhuloka, where they just survive, they eat food, they go to sleep, they find mates, they reproduce, and then they die. On and on and on, never sort of moving beyond beyond what they are instinctually designed to experience. But the human being as Antakarana has this opportunity to sort of transcend their patterns and enter Dharma. And so the idea with Dharma is that we are looking to spark the potential of recognizing life as hyper meaningful. That when you look out into the world, you don't just see the game of survival, but you see a deeper purpose, a capacity within all organisms to grow and to perceive the divine. And so as we practice today, I'd like you to consider that as you chant the U, that you are evolving forward into an as of yet unknown space. And that space orbits your personal definition, which builds up over time of divinity. And so this is the A to the U. The way I personally like to look out into the world and appreciate that divinity is through a term called infinite complexity. That within every little parsec of experience, whatever little mote of detail you're staring into or feeling or listening to, there is a world of atomic expression. There is a world of sort of physical interactions that are governed by higher principles. And so while we chant the U today, and you consider this complexity, and you consider this artistry, and consider that all of it is moving forward into a particular theme or into a particular point, it might give you a sense of profound purpose. And so that's the idea of today's session, and we're going to get right into it. And so what we'll do today, the first portion is just feel the A to the U. You'll practice that a few rounds. And then we're going to fixate on the U to build physical sensitivity to the vibration as it manifests through the throat and the head. And then we'll enter into silence, right? Move down the nadas, move down this chapters of sound, and end as we always end. Alrighty, everyone. So let's get into this. Tilt your hips forward, strong seated position. Rest your wrists on your knees, straighten your arms. Rotate your palms up to the sky. Feel your 10 fingertips buzzing and tingling. And so once you've settled into your stillness and into your posture, bring a random finger to each thumb. All of this very familiar at this point. And start to design your breaths. Deep inhales into the stomach, swell into the chest, avoid the upper collarbone. And then spend more and more time with the exhale. And create this positive feedback loop. Feel the consequence of the exhale. Again, the brunt of our practice to elevate our minds into a state that permits deeper vision depends on our nervous system. And our breath is the door into our nervous system. And our exhale is the door into our tranquility. And so feel that tranquility. And so we'll spend about 2 minutes here. If peace comes, If you cross this tipping point and transition from reactiveness and impatience to calm, bring your hands to heart center, and rather than just acknowledging that shift, work to memorize it. Question, what did I have to do to make this so? Who did I have to be? And what does it feel like? Those internal efforts will help substantiate that experience within your mind. Whether peace has come or has not come, to expand upon that tranquility, slow down your breath from here. Renounce the mind's concerns. Consider they are not your concerns. Renounce the mind's expectations. Consider they are not your expectations. Your task is to feel instead of think, to experience instead of analyze. And what are you feeling? Shatam cha ikacha hridayasya nadyas. There are 101 energy channels in the heart space. That's what you're feeling. Tasa murdanam abhinishrita ika. One of them goes to the skull. And so I'll demonstrate your practice one more time from the open mouth A, Bija mantra, to the more closed mouth U, Bija mantra. The A represents beginnings, the U represents the maintenance or the preservation of life, what we know of as living. Here it is. One more time. Whether your hands are at heart center or you're still in position one, everyone transition into the Bhumi Sparsha Mudra. And for the first portion of today's session, transition from A to U and just feel how the vibratory experience migrates from somewhere in your chest, up your throat, and into the skull. Alrighty, enjoy. It's all physical today. From time to time, consider the U represents life itself, the process of living, survival, and growth. And so now the beauty, the artistry, every utterance of the mantra from A to U represents a single life. The A represents a birth, and the U represents the necessity of surviving into life from that birth, the experience of that life. And this little mantra, this little life is contained within the greater world of your posture, contained within the greater world of Bhumi Sparsha Mudra, which itself represents the emptiness of the higher mind and the earth. The Om is you. You were born and now you're here, growing and evolving and surviving. And you exist within the world, within the higher realities of spirit and cognition and abstract thought and meaning, and the physical reality of the earth and the elements. One reflects the other. Now your chant is an exhale, laced with vibration. To encourage peace, exaggerate the length of the exhale. Relax the body and feel the tranquility of the breath out. The symbolic power of these concepts and these techniques will be increased and heightened if you focus on the literal instruction and experience. So from here, only chant the U and feel the vibration center in the throat and in the lower jaw and head. Only feel. And if from time to time your mind wanders into thought, direct it into what the U represents: preservation and maintenance of existence. And the yogis believe the purpose within that existence is to evolve forward spiritually. This is Dharma. And so to pull this into something that's yours, understand that as you chant right now, you are managing your existence and attempting to touch that higher realm. You are the U, opening the mind, touching the heart, and interacting with the moment in a more sincere way. Once you feel that thought, that beautiful ornament of cognition, come back to feeling the vibratory experience. The techniques reflect the philosophy. The philosophy suggests the way to maintain life and to push it forward is to evolve from the gross to the subtle. As antakaran is divine instruments that can apply abstract meaning to every piece of the world, the direction is external to internal, outside to inside, obvious to elusive. And so because of that, we follow the nadas. We follow the sounds into silence. Whisper the u, madayam, as quietly as you can. And notice how that heightens your sensitivity to the vibratory experience. And now silence the chanting. Repeat the U sound in the mind, pashyanti nad, but still feel the vibration in the throat, jaw, and skull. Again, the trick to this practice is connecting to the literal instruction. Feel. And the more time you spend feeling, the more relaxed your nervous system will become, the more open the mind will become. At the end of your time feeling, the ideas land easily on your awareness. From the gross to the subtle, from the obvious to the elusive, from the external to the internal. Stop repeating the mantra in the mind and exist as that silence. Exist as that monk who beheld the samurai in rage and in honesty. A metaphor for space. And feel that that vibratory experience persists as your mind persists, as your body persists, as the moment persists, and it persists because of what the U represents, the regenerating force of life. And so just feel life carry on. Feel it move forward in time and appreciate it. Slow, tranquilizing breaths. This is the peak of your practice. What do you do when you stare into a masterpiece, a work of art, a perfect song? You absorb it, you perceive it until it hits you. Meditation is the same. The masterpiece is life itself, and you are the epicenter of that life. You sit until it hits you. Slow down your breath dramatically. Feel the vibration. That vibration is the Om. Within the Om, there is birth, preservation, and death. A-U-M. Right now, you are fixating on the sense of preservation, the sense of maintenance, the sense of being carried forward through existence. Bring your hands to heart center. That vibration literally tells your body you still exist. That vibration is the literal manifestation of U. And so fixate on that. Now the Om is a single life in the world of your posture. Let's chant 3 Oms, O-M. Learn from each one. And now posture 1, release your wrists to your knees, nice straight arms, tall spine, random finger to each thumb. And so we've completed the quest of our practice. And the idea is we come back to the starting line somewhat transformed. So stay in your meditative state. These ideas are expansive and complex, and at first feel like they're just a little bit further away than we can actually reach. But then when we abide and stay committed to the techniques as literal, because we've relaxed our nervous system and in that soften the resistance of our mind in a neurological way, the ideas land easily. And so I introduced this idea of infinite complexity. Within every square inch of life, there is a universe of radiation and magnetism, of time and electrons and neutrons and protons. There is infinite expressions. So I'd just like you to consider that as you sit, that you are surrounded by an ever-evolving, ever-deepening, and truly incomprehensible creation that is, according to yogis, moving forward with a specific intention of growth, moving towards harmony, moving towards greater experiences of balance and goodness. The only reason we have that impulse to be better than we were is because the universe is encoded with that drive. We are not unique in our pursuit of Dharma. Dharma is the law. And it feels good to pursue it because now we are flowing with the circumstances of the world. And so a couple breaths, infinite complexity, and I suppose infinite integrity. Everything is becoming better. With a breath in, open your eyes, slow down your breath. As the eyes open and externalize, simultaneously feel the vibration of the body. That is the literal path of Dharma. Connect to your nervous system and everything will organize from there. Stay here for a couple moments. Not reaching, not pushing, not the good samurai, not the bad samurai, but the monk. The expression of space, of tolerance and patience. Maintain it. Feel the struggle to maintain that capacity. The struggle to exist as that vacuum. For 5, slow it down. 4, slow it down. 3, 2, and 1. Blink your eyes, wash it away.